On the table today at Squirrel Stampede, we are transforming back to Rise of the Beasts with one of my favorites, Rhinox. We have two releases of Rhinox this year. We had the general release of Rhinox at the start of the movie season, and then just recently, Studio Series 103 Rhinox has dropped. In fact, I think I have so many Rhinoxes now, we could almost have a Rhinox Stampede.
Oh, goody. It's always entertaining to have a good old rhinoceros review.
We're all gonna die. Yeah, I gotta watch out for those stampedes. So 2 Rhinoxes today to look at, both radically different, but both boasting some pretty interesting features. So let's transform these Rhinoxes and see how well they beast, as long as we don't get run over by a Rhinox Stampede.
Squirrel Stampede.
So 2 Rhinoxerized to choose from. We've got Rhinox Basic Release right here in the green packaging you would typically see with Basic Release Rise of the Beasts figures released way back at the start of the season. And now incoming Rise of the Beasts Studio Series 103 Rhinox. I had wished I waited just a couple more days because the store brought out more and this one has been torn. But that's okay, we're getting it out of the box, so no worries there. So looking at these two at the back of the packs, obviously Studio Series, supposedly a better quality series, but I've had some good lucks with the basic release here. I really enjoyed the basic release Prime that we saw a couple months back. Feels like the first movie release of Rhinox is more of a Beast Wars look of a Rhinox. He's got his traditional saw blade weaponry, and his head sculpt feels more old school Rhinox to me. Even just overall shape of him. Whereas Studio Series Rhinox big screen inspired feels more big screen inspired. Probably has more of a realistic movie look. So now's really the time to be a Rhinox fan because there is so much with Rhinox out there. Let's get the 2 figures out, see what they look like. And the Rhinoxer eyes are out.
Studio Series Rhinox, huh? Not so sure about you when you already got me. Who needs another one? Yeah, but I'm Studio Series. Come on, guys. No need to argue and worry about things when I'm here, the best Rhinox out of the group.
We're all gonna die. First impressions, it's amazing how radically different these are for the same character. One of the things I did not care too much of the Rise of the Beasts parts was the plainness of the figures. The color schemes always came out so flat. You can kind of see that with the muddy brown of Rhinox with a silver gray undertone. Kind of muddy. I do like the green there on his saw blade weaponry. Then for Studio Series, it's more of a gray, more of a silver gray, a little bit of a shininess on some of the plating, but otherwise mostly gray, and then a little bit of brown undercoating here and there. But they certainly look radically different. This side of Rhinox almost feels more like an armadillo. Armadillo-ox. So a little bit of interesting features for both of them, with some good and bad for each.
You think if I clobber him over the head with this mace, he'll say nicer things about us? Yeah, maybe if I saw Squirrel Stampede's tail off, he'll give us a better review.
Squirrel Stampede is gonna die. Right now I'm leaning closer to liking the first version from the general release. Supposedly less steps of transformation at 21 gives it a more solid feel so far. It's standing a little bit better with a wider footprint, which I prefer. Heavier legs to support Rhinox too, which helps. Overall proportions pretty well. I feel like it's a figure both direct from the new Rise of the Beast and also old school Beast Wars with just the weaponry and the overall look of him. I even kind of like how the rhinoceros head sits gracefully onto his back. I believe these rhino horns do pop out and are used as maybe another weapon. But I could see some saying, okay, that rhinoceros head on the back looks a little clumsy, so maybe having it built in a little more on the Studio Series will work better. Articulation good though. Shoulders that move, elbows, wrists that are currently grabbing onto his weapons, waist rotation, hips, knees, and again, really strong ankle feet for supporting, so plenty of points there to move him about. As for Studio Series, My first thought is less leg support. His legs are a little more wobbly than what I'm seeing with the first Rhinox and a smaller footprint, so maybe a little more of a challenge to get him to stand. Stronger upper body though. The proportions of his chest is really quite puffy, so he's got some weight and strength to him. And then over here on the backside, his rhinoceros head is, well, hidden somewhere. I don't know where it is. He almost could possibly be a triceratops with those horns popping up back there. And instead of your classic saw blade weapons, there is that mace, which is kind of a fun side weapon to Rhinox. Not too bad, it feels character specific. Articulation with this dude, we've got shoulders, these awesome shoulder armor pads up top really look nice, but we can rotate our shoulders up and down, elbow rotation, wrists that rotate, center body rotation. I should say both probably have head rotation, knees that are pretty bendy, double jointed on this one, hips that move out for kicking, and ankles. So there's plenty of points in there. Just I feel like he's a little more wobbly, but the more I get to know him, the more I don't mind. So really between the two at this point, it's really hard to tell which one I like the most, as they each have features that work pretty well. I like the darker brown of this Rhinox. It feels a little more classic, and of course the look. But the Studio Series movie Rise of the Beast Rhinox is a pretty interesting fellow too. So it's probably going to come down to transformation, who does it better, who makes it work better, and all that. But maybe before I get those two out, let's take a look at really basic Released Rhinox. Now this one should be just absolutely bare bones of Rhinox. That one's pretty basic. I don't know, I basically had this guy sitting in a box all summer and had to find a reason to open. Before I had found the regular basic release of Rhinox back here, I thought this might be the only chance we see a basic Rhinox, and so that's why I picked it up. Only to find this one a week or so later, so then I was like, why do I even have this one? It's kind of basic, but you know, if you're collecting some of the basic ones, it's pretty fun. Oh, he's tippy. Look at him. He's like an old man in a rocking chair. Alright, so let's get this guy out of the way for a moment, and let's check on the transformation process of your basic release Rhinox from earlier in the year. With 21 steps of transformation, I'm hoping this one is more of my style. I usually prefer less transformation steps. Oh, so first, this horn accessory can be placed up on either shoulder pad as kind of an extra little side punchy in the face weapon. Let's now remove all weaponry so we can get to beast mode. Okay, I think I've got him standing most basic. So I believe the first thing we're gonna do is spin him around to the back and check out this giant rhinoceros body and lift it up if we can. We can lift it up and high. There we go. Maybe add back that horn, it looks so weird without. And flip down this lower back panel. Now back around to the front and reach out his arms like he's about to slide down quickly on an escalator. And maybe rotate these somehow so that we can kind of expose the underside of his hollow arms. Rhinox, you're really weak. You're supposed to be one of the strongest beasts. Where are your muscles? You do not have any. They are empty. They are shallow. They are void. How embarrassing. Hide your head in shame. And then flip a rhinoceros head over that too. Maybe now's a good time to tuck those hands in. And then rotate. I can see some Rhinox legs appearing now. Those are tight. And swing them on forward. It's a standing rhinoceros. Have you ever seen one? Go on a safari trip and see something like this? That would probably send you running. Now we're gonna do some classic Beast Wars waist rotation. So rotate those beast legs all the way around. But then rotate those knees back all the way around. So whatever we did there, we pretty much destroyed Rhinox's pants. They're all twisted up. Well, if you like panel transformers, now it's time to learn about Rhinox's shins. The wide world of Rhinox's shins. The squirrels are pretty interested, so the first thing we do, we flap out these shins from the front. He's got a lot of things going on inside there. Then we're gonna flip down and up. I guess this is where we're hiding his feet. Should be pretty quick and interesting. Bend the toes down, and then up. Bend the toes down, and then up. Don't even try to stand at this point or you're going to need some support. So flip around to the back. We're gonna lift these thingies up here. More rhinoceros feet, I think that's what those are. Then fold these all the way down. Well, he's gonna get taller. And all of this is gonna combine together in one sort of giant rhinoceros whole shell. And now we've created that Transformers Little Mermaid mashup again. The Little Mermaid Rhinox edition. Look at that, it's total mermaid. Total mermaid. Watch as the native Mernox swims about its environment. The Rhinox preys upon squirrels, but at the same time enjoys them. Okay, I don't know what that means, but that's the Rhinox we've created. Okay, so 18, we're gonna fold some things. Gotta match the image just right. I think we're folding it kind of like this. And then we're gonna be swinging around this, probably back around here. Oh, I see the tabs and the back are gonna somehow swing in together. Kind of like this. These two going into the back, actually. I thought these two top would be it, but it's actually more like these two right in here snap together for our Rhinox. Then I think we're doing some leg adjustment here, making sure these are down like a Rhinox should stand instead of swim. And then finally close up these back side panel flaps. And so there we are, pretty simple. I like the stages. There's a giant gaping hole through his body. Perfect place to avoid a Decepticon missile. Just have that thing zing right through you. That's an open section. Not sure if I built that correctly. Oh, maybe I didn't. Okay, rotate these arms. I must have missed a step somehow, but if you slide and rotate these arms up, that hides that giant cavity. Okay, good. And so after fixing an almost fatal flaw in the Rhinox beast mode design, we've got him beast moded into a great looking rhinoceros. That was a pretty easy flow transformation. I like how that one turned out. And you can even place his saw blade shooters up onto his shoulders. That is a nice effect. I don't remember in the past being able to do that. Typically, you would hide those up and under his belly, and there might actually be a spot for those. I wonder if I can cram those in. Previous, I think this is a Kingdom's Rhinox. You can see that weaponry shoved right up under those legs there. But really, what a great basic release Rhinox. I like when they're quick and easy to transform, and I really do like Rhinox. So now we can slide General Release Rhinox over here and bring in Studio Series 103 Rhinox, all in silver, like the shiny pads again. Pretty dull from all around, but a good sculpt. It's got a good Rhinoxian sculpt. So 29 steps of transformation with this one, so about 7 to 8 more steps to configure on into this Nox of Rhye, so lots of things to be interested about. I wonder if they'll be able to recreate that spinning vortex inside his Rhinoxian rhinoceros mouth that we saw in the movie. That was terrifying, by the way. So let's start by losing this awesome weapon. We'll drop it down here onto the side and we'll get back to that later and get into a nice standing forward straight stance as best as we can. He's a little wobbly. Step 1 involves these side flanges and I don't even see them. Maybe right here and there. That's not so bad. That way his whole front chest should fold down. And these first side panels will now click on into the front panel. He's definitely more complicated than the first. This is probably your Rhinox Daddy Rat Trap saddle mode in which you can take Rat Trap around to the theme parks and show him all the rides.
Now come along, Rat Trap, let me show you the rides.
We're all gonna die. Oh, so yeah. And so when you're done with Daddy Saddle mode, I think this whole thing just kind of flips up, kind of like that, maybe. Now he just looks like he's tubby.
I like Cool Ranch Doritos, so I'm gonna eat them.
Okay, you do that, Rhinox. Step 5, let's just spin him around. Let's see what's going on in the back. We'll start by hinging down this tail piece. I guess this Rhinox actually has a tail. This Rhinox did not have a tail. It's just kind of molded down. And now the whole backpack assembly will swing down, revealing his rhinoceros head inside. You can kind of see the head in there right now, and that head actually punches through this end of the body. The lower horn was punching through down here at the belly point. So that was really cool how that fits in. Nicely done. So now in step 7, we can take Rocksteady, roll him around back to front, and lift up that rhinoceros head and start prepping where it's gonna go. These horns on his back also need to be flipped on in. They just don't feel right, do they? Those horns up there? Or are those ears? Maybe those are ears. Now back around to the back one more time. You need to look inside the brains of this rhinoceros by flipping open his nose panel and probably rotating up his real rhinoceros horn. That is one sharp horn, and then closing it back up. Wow, that's really sharp. And we're about halfway done now. Moving on to step 14, we can rotate this full head down, I believe, and over his robot head. Pinching these next side clips on into just below and near his robot head. Should do it. Now we can get his arms all prepped, swing them out, straighten them up. And there's some side panels on each forearm, I think, so that you can just rotate his fist on in and then kind of flip it off into the carpet in which it lands on several different Lego sets. Both of them. I guess they're not really attached, are they? Oh, they are attached onto a post, so they kind of like to pop off this post pretty easily. Make sure you've got our feet now are out, right? Oh, and this whole thing comes off. Wow, he's got some weak points in these arms. So I guess I'm orienting his fist so that his thumb will go against this cavity wall inside, and then these two posts will peg in. Kind of the downside to the modern Transformers. With each generation of release, the plastic seems to be getting lighter and lighter. Hinges are weaker and weaker, and some of the elements start to fail. I really hope the longevity of this plastic is okay too. I can see these things really falling apart. All those arm movements basically feature steps 15 through about 21. Really, you just got to get those arms flipped around, and then at this point, I think you're ready to go, getting him into the next stage. I believe actually you want to get these arm spikes to be pointed inside the rhinoceros and not out, and then have your feet pointed forward like so. And then for step 21, we're going to start moving these shoulders down, rhino shoulders down on in, and he should be standing on his front legs how you would want them at this point. We'll adjust a little bit. At the moment, he's kind of bow-legged at the front. They're kind of moving outward awkwardly, but we'll get there. Now we got to go back to the back. Flipping over here. This part's a little odd as we have a toaster inside of Rhinox right there, but what we need to do is move these side rubber flanges that kind of hang awkwardly and make sure they are out of the way. That way you can flip it down this central skirt piece down into the toaster. And then now we make sure that legs are nice and straight, flip around, and I think they rotate down like a rhinoceros clown. Then in stage 29, if everything lines up correctly, we can just smash down his tail on into those back legs and get everything nice and tight. Then kind of run in some squeezing finishing touches, making sure we are all set to go, standing nice on all fours. Hinge up the spiky side to his clobbering mace and place onto his back. And complete! What to think? I like how they are able to tuck in his head from the back. He certainly looks to have some rhinoceros girth here and there. From some angles looking quite beefy, but then from other angles looking quite empty. It's kind of the way his tummy tucks out, trying to create more space. From this angle actually looking really solid, but from other angles, like looking in from below there, you can kind of see on into the chest cavity there, if I have it right correctly. Front legs are a little bit caved in, but he's in an interesting stance. I like how the back legs are just positioned really nice and tight. I like how he's got a tail back there. I like the silver rhinoceros look. Definitely a rhinoceros. Robo-rhino. A robo-rhino for sure on this one. Transformation a little bit clumsy in parts, but I think as I get used to it, may work out pretty well. I guess you could say overall he's on par with the other Rise of the Beasts. And now comparing the two together, you've got two very interesting rhinoceros. Feels a little larger in this form, whereas this one feels a little more bulky. Maybe it's just the weaponry and how it's positioned. Maybe it's the color scheme. This one has more of a compact minivan feel, where this one has more of a utilitarian Jeep mode. They're both quite striking and a lot of fun. I think at this point though, the general release is a little more my fave. Maybe it's the saw blade spinners, I'm not sure. Maybe it's a little quicker transformation, a little more hulkier, I like it. This one's not bad at all too though. You never can go wrong with Studio Series, it's always a lot of fun. So overall, a pretty fun experiment checking these two out at the same time. Of course, we can't forget this guy. Let's get this guy transformed. It's only 6 stages, I don't think there's much going on here if I remember how I did this. These back legs just collapse right in on each other. And then I think there's some posts in here. We can flip these hands in like so. Even his weapon is like already attached to this hand. And well, eventually things twist on and around onto his back. And there we go with basic Rhinox. Baby Rhinox. What did I do with that weapon? Flange that in somehow. Baby Rhinox. So it's like a family. You got mom, you got baby, and you got dad Rhinox. Aw, what a happy family. And while we are still Rhinoxing around here, let's bring out the Rhinox Stampede. We've got the two we just worked on. This, I believe, was a Kingdom Rhinox, which was a little bit fun. Can't remember if I did that one on screen or off screen. Then, oh boy, this one was a fun one. Hey, close your mouth. I said close your mouth. He won't close his mouth. This guy took me about 20 minutes to transform. It's a 30th anniversary 2014 Rhinox. Had the most difficult hips I've ever experienced, but I think I figured him out. Had the cutest ears though. And then we'll go old school with our original Beast Wars Rhinox. Always just a little bit undersized, that one was. Funny that they could have made him a larger class instead of just a basic class he was in. And then one more, a Transmetal Rhinox for the Rhinox Stampede here. There is one of my favorites. This was the second repaint. I just like the blue and the yellow so much more. So somehow I've accumulated all these Rhinoxes. I couldn't believe I still had a few of these as I had let go some of the Beast Wars items I've had from the past, but there you go, a really interesting Rhinox Stampede. So now kind of want to get these guys back into robot before we end the day. And the return to robot mode, well, out of the two, after fidgeting them back and forth, I think I prefer the basic Released Rhinox. I think it's just more fun. Could be the classic spinning weapons again, but I felt like there was less fumbling from going from beast to robot back to robot to beast. Whereas Studio Series has a few clumsy issues inside. Perhaps they did just a little bit better paint job on this one, adding a little more silver, maybe even some gold detailing. I would have liked this better, but the two were both certainly fun to Rhinox around with. So how about that for Rhinox Day? 2 new rhinoceroses for your Rhinox Stampede. If you like today's video, please give us a squike, squirrelive, a squammet, your favorite Rhinox or your favorite Rise of the Beasts. Don't forget, Squirrel Stampede now has merch. We've got some t-shirts and a sweater and some questionable water bottling, Landry, and plush information down below. Thank you so much for watching. That's what I have to say about that.
I thought this was supposed to be an Optimus Prime only channel for Transformers.
Don't you mean Optimus Primal kind of channel? We're all gonna die.